period is the most important developmental phase throughout one's lifespan, but it can only be achieved after creating ideal conditions for children from gestation period to about 8 years of age. During these first few years of a child's life, the brain develops most rapidly, laying a foundation for a child's physical and mental health, affecting everything from longevity to the lifelong capacity to learn. There are 3 critical elements of healthy child development: a stable, responsive and nurturing caregiving, appropriate nutrition, and safe, supportive environments. This preparation helps them thrive in their physical, social, emotional and cognitive development. By its nature, early childhood development cannot be left to a single entity. Hence, the government of Uganda has developed a national integrated early childhood development policy action plan 2016 till 2021, a policy with benefits for the country. The policy, implemented by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and the Ministry of Education and Sports, together with stakeholders, provides for regulation and quality assessment of childcare and early learning services.
Our ministry has the mandate to protect and care for children, but specifically the ECD policy is from 0 to 8. We work very closely with the Ministry of Health. We work very closely with the Ministry of Education.
The policy also recognizes the 4 ECD provisions of nursery schools, daycare, community and home-based provisions. Literacy and Adult Basic Education is an indigenous NGO started in 1989 to provide literacy opportunities for both adults and children in marginalized communities of Uganda.
We've been engaged in promoting literacy and adult education in Uganda, especially in post-conflict communities. We are creating an informal learning environment for these children.
Labe'S home-based ECD model originates from the family learning approach used in her basic education projects that were targeting parental involvement in children's education in eastern Uganda. During the family basic education sessions, parents also came along with their preschool children.
The objective of home-based ECD is to make sure that we reach the 3 to 6-year-olds in marginalized communities who don't have an opportunity to access the formal nurseries, simply because their parents or their families do not have the ability to pay what is required in formal nurseries.
Currently, Labe is supporting the implementation of home-based ECD in post-conflict communities of West Nile and northern Uganda.
These are people, they are recovering from the war, and therefore their level incomes are too low to afford the paid early childhood development education in privately provided schools.
Just because it is non-formal does not exactly mean that we are working parallel to what the government is doing. National Curriculum Development Center has gone ahead and they've designed a curriculum that specifically deals with that non-formal ECD. It is called the Complementary Learning Framework. So for us, basically we are complementing what the government is doing, but we are doing it to make sure that these children who would have otherwise not accessed ECD can comfortably and easily access ECD.
According to the 2016 Budget Monitoring and Accountability Unit briefing paper, only 9.5% of Uganda's over 5 million children aged 3 to 5 years access pre-primary education. This figure is the lowest in East Africa compared to Kenya's 53.5%, Tanzania's 35.5% and Rwanda's 29%. In 2014, 1,802, that's about 36%, and 519, about 10%, of the 4,956 pre-primary schools in Uganda were located in Buganda and Bunyoro regions, respectively. Also, over 80% of Uganda's population cannot afford tuition fees charged for pre-primary education. To address this lack of access to ECD services in West Nile and northern Uganda, Labe'S supports communities to start and run home learning centers.
What happens is that a number of families get together. They agree on a certain compound which is favorable, and they say, let's put our children here and set up a learning space here so that all our children in the neighboring families can access home-based ECD. But it is non-formal, and because it is non-formal, they do not come for the learning sessions every day. They come 3 days in a week, and they will come at an appropriate time as agreed by the parents.
You realize that in the urban areas, the private investors have actually set up pre-primary institutions, which is not in the rural areas. And Labe has played a very big role in setting up these institutions through the local people. They have involved the people, they have participated well in these home-based learning centers. And of course, as a minister, I visited these centers, I've appreciated.
A home learning center is a safe place created in a volunteer's homestead, serving at least 6 families. Home learning centers can be affiliated to a nearby primary school, which 6-year-olds from the center can join. Each home learning center is governed by a home learning center management committee, selected by the families with volunteering representatives from the local leadership and satellite school.
And within the community, within the homestead where these homeline centers are established, we have the elders. So they come in to tell the stories. They come in to participate, to watch, to make sure the children are safe. So the learning environment itself makes the learning of these children much easier and more attractive.
This home-based model does not only encourage active parent participation, but is also in line with all government ECD frameworks and policies, the Ministry of Education and Sports ECD policy, the NCDC ECD learning framework, the local language and education policy, and even recently launched Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development National Integrated Early Childhood Development Policy. P1 teachers from home learning centers' satellite schools have reported that home learning center graduates have got a mastery of local language and relate well with others, among other attributes. A 3-year independent tracer study done by Center for Basic Research Uganda on children from home learning centers concluded that attendance of a home learning center helped them to cope and perform better in school.
If all the learners in my class could go through the learning centers, my work will be now easier, because through my experience, those people from the learning centers, they are ready to learn. Whenever you introduce something to the class, for them, within a short time, they have already picked the concept in their heads. So they learn faster and they retain the information in their mind for long. If you ask them after some days what you have taught some time back, they can tell you what you have taught in the class.
This was confirmed by the Uganda National Assessment for Progress in Education test results, suggesting that children from home learning centers who sat for the tests were more proficient in literacy at 41.8% and numeracy at 49.1% as compared to their counterparts at 34.5% for literacy and 40.2% for numeracy.
We want to thank Labe for this initiative, for helping us to have these schools or these home learning centers in the villages. But of course, as a government, we are also interested, and we shall definitely see a way of intervening and helping these schools to be sustained.
In doing all this, Labe has remained true to its value of working through and with partnerships.
Not yet gotten where we want to be, because the challenge, education challenge, is enormous. And as an organization, we cannot do it alone. We have to work with other partners. We have promoted the model, we have presented it to the Ministry of Education, and they have adopted it and they have approved it for scale-up. So we believe that there will be new adopters who will join us and make sure that we reach the marginalized children.
The need for home-based ECD is high. What we have done is just a drop in the ocean. Reaching out to more children in marginalized communities calls for your support, involvement, and dedication to this model as an alternative for those who cannot access other available forms of ECD.